All right, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim, Harakakodash. A double honors unto the elders and apostles of GMS Great Millstone, and a sincere Shalom to Yakim, bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. Now, I was watching the elder Karatazah's lesson here in Vegas, and basically he did a response to Vocab's video. Basically, Vocab, trying to group all Israelites together by saying, oh, well, look who, unalived Martin Luther King's, I believe is one of his relatives off, man. So the elder went into, a few Christians, who caused havoc and unalive, a bunch of people, man, to show forth that, hey, if you're going to go and play that game, then, hey, we can go into the history of what your religion is, and break down basically the atrocities done to hundreds of thousands to millions of people. Well, it's like millions of people, being unalived under the name of Christianity, and that sparked a fire within me, because here it is, these Christians, they love to bring up, or try to bring up, wickedness, in which a few Israelites do, but the basis of their religion, is off of grape robbery and murder, man. So what I did was through the spirit, I used some resources on Google and got a PDF of just a short brief history of the damage done in the name of Christianity, right? So this Micah 2 at the top, it says, woe to them that devise iniquity and work evil in their beds. When the morning is light, they practice it, because it is in the power of their hands. Salakia. Right, and here it is. We know Esau Edom, in which who runs this current world, this current eon, right? What he does, especially what this new administration is doing, is they're giving you an illusion of freedom of speech, illusion of trust, but really it's all to just, bring you down, and they're doing it off the basis of getting the Christian morals back, right? Trump is ruling his campaign, which, is all just an illusion. He's running his campaign off the morals, or the quote unquote morals of the average Christian, not wanting the LGBT agenda, not wanting the wickedness that comes from, not being able to stand up for your country, right? These are the things that they believe in. But when you take a root, or a look at the root of Christianity, it's filled with blood, man. It's filled with blood. Throughout all of history, it's filled with blood, man. And I'm not talking about the history of of Jake being called Christians at Antioch, and actually believing in Yahweh Shai. I mean, hey, when Esau got his hands on our book, and started manipulating, what was written. And I mean, what was written in the terms of the slave Bible, him creating the slave Bible, and him telling Jake false truth, or the false ways of what he felt the Bible was saying, right? It says, and they covet fields and take them by violence, because this is the path in which Christianity led, man. They literally snatched lands from Gad and Reuben, right, by violence. It says, and houses, and take them away. So they oppress a man in his house, even a man in his heritage, right? And the scripture tell you that, hey, our heritage was going to be taken away from us, man. Ultimately, because our disobedience. Hey, but Esau is the one that caused that pain and hell. The Lord used him to get to us, right? So I have this article here, and I made some notes. Now, this article stems from, the writings of a man called Bartolome de las Casas, right? And this article was originally published in 1552, right? So a lot of the way that it's written, is like old, I don't want to say old English, but that's really what it is, old English, right? Now it says the horde, it says the true displays in its bloody colors, or a faithful narrative of the horrid and unexampled massacres, butcheries, and all manner of cruelties that hell and malice could invent, committed by the Popish Spanish party on the inhabitants of West India, which is really the Americas. It says, with the devastation of several kingdoms in America by fire and sword for the space of 42 years from the time of its first discovery by them. Right? It says, composed first in Spanish by Bartholomew de las Casas, a bishop there, an eyewitness of most of these barbarous cruelties, and it was translated by him into Latin. So there it is, from Spanish to Latin to English. It says into High Dutch, Low Dutch, French, and now taught to speak modern English. So those were all the translations, of his writings into what we have now, right? So it's gonna read weird in a sense, certain wordings, but nevertheless, you'll understand the point. And understand this was all done in the name of Christianity. Matter of fact, I'll start here. Yeah, and this is like the preface, right? But I'm gonna just jump to it, right? It says the cruelties of the Spaniards committed in America. And the highlighted portions are just the portions I'm gonna read, but you can go ahead and it's about 75-page PDF. I read about I guess a chapter, if you can say that. Maybe not even that. But nevertheless, it says, and I'm going to just jump to the parts that's highlighted. It speaks about them landing here in 1492, right? And it says, and such a multitude of people inhabits these countries, speaking of Gad and Reuben, that it seems as if the omnipotent power has assembled and convocated the major part of mankind in this part of the world, right? We understand that the scriptures speak about a land where never mankind dwelt, right? A land where never mankind dwelt. This second Esdras 13 and 39, because the scriptures talk about how the Lord's calmed the waters for Jake. Second for the northern kingdom. Second Esdras 13 and 39. And whereas thou sawest that he gathered another peaceable multitude unto him, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmanasar the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over the waters, and so they came into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves, that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, and that's the Americas. It says that they might keep their statutes which they never kept in their own land. And they entered into the Euphrates by the narrow places of the river. For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over. For through the country that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, and the same region is called Arsareth. So there it is, showing the northern kingdoms coming into America. So this is before 1492, obviously. That's just when Columbus and them and Bartolomé de las Casas, him and that cavalry of men came over here. It says, now this infinite multitude of men are by the creation of the Most High innocently simple, altogether void of and averse to all manner of craft, subtlety, and malice. Basically showing that Jake was a peaceful people over here, It says, and most obedient and loyal subjects to their native sovereigns. Right, Jake was living in unity. They weren't, killing each other, as Esau did. They lived in harmony with the land. It says, and behaved themselves very patiently, submissively, and quietly towards the Spaniards. So even when Jake, ran into when they came into this land, he didn't treat them like an enemy. He showed them their ways, so that they could live. But let's see what was done in the name of Christianity. Because when first landed, touched his foot here, he seen prophet. He seen prophet and smelt blood. Right? It says, behave themselves very patiently, submissively, and quietly towards the Spaniards, to whom they are subservient and subject. Automatically seeing Jake as what? A servant, a slave, a someone he can profit off of. Free labor and spoils. It says so that they live without the least thirst after revenge. Because when understanding the scriptures, right? As Yahweh Shai said, lay upon these two commandments, put no God before Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai, serve no idol, basically the first commandment. And then he said what? And treat thy brother as thyself, paraphrasing, man. So Jake would forgive one another. They would live in unity with one another. And it wasn't any bad blood, so to speak. Right? That's why they said the least thirst. They live without the least thirst after revenge, laying aside all litigiousness, commotion, and hatred. Showing you how peaceful things were, before the wicked one, Esau wicked ass, came in, man. Right? I'm gonna jump down to this part. That highlighted says the men are pregnant and docile, right? It says the natives tractable and capable of morality, or goodness, very apt to receive the instilled principles of Catholic religion, nor are they averse to civility and good manners. Right there, he's trying to implement his rule on us. It says being not so much discomposed by a variety of obstructions as the rest of mankind, right? Not having to deal with, the other part of the world, how they're struggling with, the ways of life. It says, insomuch that having sucked it in, if I may so express myself, the very first rudiments of the Christian faith. So this was all done in what? In the name of Christianity. They are so transported with zeal and fervor in the exercise of ecclesiastical sacraments and divine service. So he was coercing Jake and teaching him, but teaching him what? Plantation Christianity, man. Right? It says, in divine service that the very religiosos themselves stand in need of the greatest and most signal patience to undergo such extreme transports. Now, let's keep going. It says, the Spaniards first assaulted the innocent sheep, talking about us, so qualified by the Almighty as is prementioned, like most cruel tigers, wolves, and lions, hunger-starved, studying nothing, for the space of 40 years after their first landing. But the massacre of these wretches, whom they have so inhumanely and barbarously butchered and harassed with several kinds of torments, never before known or heard, of which you shall have some account in the following discourse, that of 3 million persons, which lived in Hispaniola itself, there is at present but the inconsiderable remnant of scarce 300. So he slaughtered 3 million to 300, man. All in the name of religion of Christianity. And you have the nerve of Christians to try to talk about us, man. You have the nerve. And this is just ancient history. Well, I can't even say ancient. This is 1492 upwards, right? You have recent acts of Christians. Dylan Roof was a Christian. That was 2019. He was a Christian, man. And what did he go do? He went into the Christian church and did what? And unalived all them grandmas and grandpas in that church, man. In the name of Christianity. So to go tit for tat or blood for blood, there's no comparison, man. The basis in which Christianity is founded upon was a matter of fact, as the scripture says, John 10:10. Right? The scripture says, the thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. Right? And that's Esau and Mo. He's all about those three things: to kill, steal, and destroy. Yahweh Shai said, I am come that they may have life and that they may have it more abundantly. But this is how he gets down, man. This his motive. Matter of fact, this is Sirach 13 chapter. Right? It says Baruch. It's Sirach 13. And I'll start here at 4. If thou be for his profit, he will use thee. And he used Jake back then when they first landed in America. He used the Southern Kingdom on the plantations. which Gad and Reuben, they were on some of these plantations as well. A matter of fact, their plantations were called encomiendas, right? And what they were mining for was silver and gold. In the same harsh conditions in which the plantations for the Southern Kingdom had, it was the same harsh conditions, if not harsher, for the Northern Kingdom. You can read that in the book, The Other Slavery by Andres Resendez, man. He goes into that, right? Because the slavery that was done upon the Northern Kingdom, it wasn't as documented, right? Because it was still considered illegal. Yet he didn't give a fuck, man. He still did what he did, right? It says, if thou be for his profit, he will use thee. But if thou have nothing, he will forsake thee. So when he seen Jake over here peaceful, not fighting each other or worried about greed, the common things Edomites, kill each other for. Guess what? He seen Jake as a way to profit his infrastructure, his business. This is blood money they still dealing with. You look at the elites, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, the Bilderbergers, the DuPonts, the Gettys, the Oppenheimers. These families have profited off of the labor and slavery of our people. Look at who funded the triangular trade. Whose name it was who funded the slave ships. These are these same families, man. Right? So, I'm going to go back. And reading this shit makes you mad. It makes you mad, man. Because understanding this is our people. This was us. Continuing, it says, when the Spaniards first arrived here, about 500,000 men dwelt in it. They are now cut off, some by slaughter, and others ravished away by force and violence to work in the mines of Hispaniola, which was destitute of native inhabitants. For a certain vessel sailing to the island, to the end that the harvest being over, some good Christian, moved with pity, undertook this dangerous voyage to convert souls to Christianity. The remaining gleanings might be gathered up. There were only found 11 persons, which I saw with mine own eyes. Right now, I'm going to jump down. It says, nay, we dare boldly affirm that during the 40-year space wherein they exercised their sanguinary and detestable tyranny in these regions, above 12 millions, computing men, women, and children, have undeservedly perished, meaning they were unalived, man. Nor do I conceive that I should deviate from the truth by saying that above 50 millions in all paid their last debt to nature, meaning what? They were unalived. They were killed, man. This is a eyewitness to the destruction that was done unto our people, man. It says, those that arrived at these islands from the remotest part of Spain and who pride themselves in the name of Christians steered two courses principally in order to the extirpation and exterminating of this people from the face of the earth, right? So when you go back to Genesis and Esau is saying, now thus will I utterly slay my brother Jacob, that sentiment, that spirit he was in, has never died down. How do we know? When we go into the book of Ezekiel, the 35th chapter, and we go to the 5th verse, it says, because thou hast had a perpetual hatred, and hast shed the blood of the children of Israel by the force of the sword, in the time of their calamity, in the time that their iniquity had an end, right? So perpetual is constant, ongoing, habitual. It never stopped. It never stopped. Esau has that same hatred for you today. Same hatred. It says, therefore, as I live, saith the Lord Yahweh, I will prepare thee unto blood, and blood shall pursue thee. Since thou hast not hated blood, even blood shall pursue thee. Hey, so Yahweh Shem Shai is going to avenge himself, on Esau, man. Because he's gonna get the revenge. Right? Hey, and then, he's gonna put that anger that he has into his men. Hence Ezekiel 25 and 12. But let's go back. Right? It says, extirpation and exterminating of this people from the face of the earth. The first, whoever was raising an unjust, sanguinolent, cruel war. The other, by putting them to death, who hereunto thirst after their liberty, or designed, which the most potent, strenuous, and magnanimous spirits intended, to recover their pristine freedom and shake off the shackles of so injurious a captivity. Right? Going down, it says, in this isle, which as we have said, the Spaniards first attempted, the bloody slaughter and destruction of men first began. For they violently forced away women and children to make them slaves and ill-treated them, consuming and wasting their food. So here it is, this devil being a glutton. And same, it's really similar when you look at the besiege of Jerusalem, right? And you see how basically Jake was starved out because nothing was allowed into the city. Hey, well, Esau did this on a lower level in a sense. What he did is he made sure that the food that Gad and Reuben, were storing up, he would be eating it all or wasting it. And we know this to be in Esau's nature because when he goes on his hunting trips, right, and not just, your down south Edomite, that's hunting to feed himself, but you got these Edomites that'll go to Africa and shoot animals that they don't even eat. They just killing them for the sport. Hey, look up Cody Buffalo Bill. There's a picture of him on YouTube. I said on YouTube, it's like on Google. Of him basically standing on a mountain of carcasses of buffalo. They were literally killing the buffalo just for sport. When Gad and Reuben were killing the buffalo, they would use every part of the animal, for its purpose. Not this devil, man. So here it is. He's doing it again. Consuming and wasting their food, which they had purchased with great sweat, toil, and yet remained dissatisfied too, right? Because these foods, it wasn't like you just had fast food restaurants, or you could just grow beans, squash, and was it? I believe it's corn, beans, and squash, the three sisters. Hey, when you look into that history, and that's science as well, by the way. You know how Gad and Reuben were growing those three crops together. But nevertheless, it takes seasons, particular seasons for the crops of food to actually be there. And storages of drying meats, of drying the corn, of using certain seasons to only get this amount of crop. Here it is, he's wasting it. It says, consuming and wasting their food, which they had purchased with great sweat, toil, and yet remained dissatisfied too, which everyone according to his strength and ability, and that was very inconsiderable, for they provided no other food than what was absolutely necessary to support nature without superfluity, right? So they weren't just planting, a bunch of fields, to reap all the harvest of that. No, they planted what they needed and what they knew would grow for that appointed season. So when you're wasting food, guess what? Now people are starving, right? It says, nature without superfluity freely bestowed on them, and one individual Spaniard consumed more victuals in one day than would serve to maintain 3 families a month. I'm going to read that again. One individual Spaniard consumed more victuals, which is their food, in one day than would to serve 3 families a month. A gluttonous devil, man. Here it is. You're trying to convert Jake to Christianity, but here you are just being a full glutton. And that's also showing you how our people lived, right? Because Jake wasn't eating to get stuffed, to get full in the sense of, catching itis. They were eating what was sufficient for the need. Eating what was sufficient, man. Right? Continuing. It says, one individual Spaniard consumed more victuals in one day than was served to maintain 3 families a month, everyone consisting of 10 persons. So these niggas came over here and just caused havoc, because that's exactly what they are. Now being oppressed by such evil usage and afflicted with such great torments and violent entertainment, they began to understand that such men as those had not their mission from heaven, and therefore some of them concealed their provisions, and others to their wives and children in lurking holes, but some, to avoid the obdurate and dreadful temper of such a nation sought their refuge on the crappy tops of mountains. So Jake was fleeing just to escape these niggas, man. Just to escape Esau. It says, when the Spaniards no sooner perceived, but they mounted on generous steeds, well weaponed with lances and swords. So after you eat them out of house and home, destroy their crops, unalive their men, rape their women and children, take their resources, even more killing happens. But they mounted on generous steeds, well weaponed with lances and swords, begin to exercise their bloody butcheries and stratagems, and overrunning their cities and towns, spared no age or sex, made not so such as women with child, but ripping up their bellies, tore them alive in pieces. They laid wagers among themselves. So these demons was betting on who could cause more bloodshed, man. Betting. Hey, look up scalping. Esau was getting paid to literally take off the scalp of Gad and Reuben, man. Getting paid. Right? They laid wagers among themselves who should with a sword at one blow cut or divide a man in two, or which of them should decollate or behead a man with the greatest dexterity. Nay, farther, which should sheath his swords in the bowels of a man with the quickest dispatch and expeditions. They snatch young babes from their mother's breasts and then dash out the brains of those innocents against the rocks. So when the scriptures tell you that the same is going to happen unto Edom, it's justified, man. It's justified. Right? When the scriptures say the same, Psalms 137 and 7. Remember, O Edom, remember, O Lord Yahweh, the children of Edom in the day of Jerusalem. So he been doing this. Who said, raise it, even to the foundation of thereof, O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed. Happy shall he be that rewardeth thee as thou hast served us. Right? So when this comes upon Esau, as it's been coming upon us from age to age, happy shall he be that taketh and dasheth thy little ones against the stones. And he did it unto us, man. They snatched young babes from the mother's breast, and then dashed out the brains of those innocents against the rocks. Others they cast into rivers, scoffing and jeering them, and called upon their bodies when falling with derision, the true testimony of their cruelty, to come to them and inhumanely exposing others to their merciless swords, together with the mothers that gave them life. Right? Now the next passage is them talking about literally, burning Jake alive while they're hanging. Right? That's the paragraph right after that. Right? So here it is. All the atrocities done in the name of Christianity to our people. But when we read about the vengeance, whom that the Lord first is going to do, then you have a problem. Why do you have a problem? You've been ruling you ruled as the Greeks. You ruled as the Romans. The rebirth of the Roman Empire, which is now modern day America. You've had your time to rule, E. You've had your time to rule. And it was all done with our book in your hand. That's why the scripture in Psalm says, what is thou to do to declare thy statutes in thy mouth? You shouldn't even be touching our book. And you've been doing it for ages. For years, man. Hundreds of years. Thousands of years. Really hundreds of years. Well, thousands. Right? I'll say hundreds. Nevertheless, you've been doing it for forever. So how much more when that recompense comes back upon your head? See, this is the part of history that they don't want to go into. We know it to be true. The early stages of America was built upon the blood of our people and in the name of Christianity. Right? So when this precept comes to pass, and it will come, as the scripture says, Revelation 13:9, if any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here is the patience and the faith of the saints. Right? And we understand when we go into the book of Isaiah 63rd chapter, right? Who's bringing this danger? Who's bringing this hell? You know, because it's not us physically doing it. Hey, we have no power in our hands. And on top of that, Yahweh Shai would say, he said what? If this was my kingdom, my servants would fight. The weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the pulling down of strongholds, man. Our power is in our power. Our power is in our power, man. You know, we confide within the power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. This is Isaiah 63. It says at the top, who is this that cometh from Edom with dyed garments from Basra? This that is glorious in his apparel, traveling in the greatness of his strength. I that speak in righteousness, mighty to save. Wherefore art thou red in thine apparel, and thy garments like him that treadeth in the wine fats, like it. I have trodden the winepress alone, and of the people there was none with me. For I will tread them in mine anger, and trample them in my fury, and their blood shall be sprinkled upon my garments, and I will stain all my raiment. For the day of vengeance is in mine heart, and the year of my redeemed is come. See, the blood of the saints, it cries out, man, much like back in the time of Cain and Abel, man. When Cain slew Abel, the blood of Abel cried unto Yahweh. This place was built on the blood of Jake, right? That's why the scripture in Habakkuk says what? It's Habakkuk 2. And 12. And it reads, woe to him that buildeth a town with blood and establish a city by iniquity. It says, woe unto him, man. Hey, so all that was done unto us, it shall be done unto you in its perfection. Hey, once we get into the kingdom, man. It's that simple, right? So, hey, you've had your run. Hey, you've done your damage. Hey, and when you read more of it, and I'll just, for brothers that may want to read, what I highlighted, I'll keep it here. And you can screenshot it. All you want. You can screenshot those, this page here if you want. I'll just leave it there for a little second. And that was, I didn't read further down, but going back to the article just so you can see the name really quick. It says a brief account of the destruction of the Indies. Author, and there goes the information. But yeah, this was done unto us, man. So, hey, he is going to get it, man, for all the bloodshed, for having us in his hand. And the Lord is going to sanction it, And the kingdom to come, he has a tab to pay. Right? So, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying unto the body. I want to give all praises, glory, and honor unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Harakakwadash. A double honors unto the apostles and elders of GMS Great Millstone. And a sincere shalom to Yakim bringing out this word in diligence and in truth. Shalom.